Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Recently I saw a video from a Christian called Caleb Smith. He gave the ontological argument for God another go, this time in a version that was formerly unknown to me. But all of that doesn't matter, because of course the argument fails yet again. Although I do think it's nice to see that people throw in their ideas on YouTube and see if it sticks to the wall. This version of the argument is so obviously flawed that I can't imagine that Caleb didn't see that for himself. Well, let's first listen to the argument. Take it away, Caleb.
In this video, I'm going to present a version of the ontological argument in 40 seconds or fewer. And I want you to rate me on how clear is this argument, how persuasive is this argument, and whether you think this will actually convince anyone to join the kingdom of God or not.
I'm really sorry to say this, Caleb, but the only people you're going to convince with this argument are stupid people. People who are not capable of understanding the basic principles of logic. And to be honest, that is the case for almost every God argument.
So, 40 seconds on the clock, here we go. There are only 4 types of things. Impossible things like square circles and married bachelors. Possible things that happen not to exist, like unicorns and dodo birds. Possible things that do exist, like you or me. And necessary things, like some people would say the laws of logic or numbers. God, by definition, is the best of all possible beings, so we're not talking about a contingent possible being that just happens to exist or not. So God isn't category 2 or 3 by definition. And God isn't impossible. No one has proven he absolutely can't exist. Therefore, God is necessary.
Seriously, that's it. And he honestly wants us to tell him if we think the argument works or not. I suppose that if his audience tells him that it's a good argument, he will actually use it. Oh dear. Let's dissect the argument step by step.
There are only 4 types of things. Impossible things like square circles and married bachelors.
So, what Caleb is trying to do here is to create a basic category system in which he wants to cover all possible scenarios for reality. And if you do that properly, a category system can be a powerful element within an argument, because if you can exclude certain categories, it means that one of the other categories must apply. It's even better. If you can exclude all categories but one, then you found the truth, and that is nice. For example, if I'm in a contest with 4 competitors, and we know that one of us is the winner, but if the other 4 competitors know that they did not win, then that's good news for me. I must be the winner. Now this of course only works if you do it properly. So your categories must cover 100% of all possible realities, not 75%, not 125%, so it's important that you don't leave out any category and that you don't overlap categories, because then your category system becomes unreliable and can no longer be used to draw any conclusions. And of course, that is what's going wrong here. And somehow, Christian apologists in general are very bad at this. They so often mess up simple category matters. Now, Caleb starts off with his first category, and that is things that can't exist. Now guess what category Caleb needs to complete this category system and cover 100% of reality. That's right. Things that can exist. In this case, there are only 2 main categories, things that can't exist and things that can exist. Now, of course, you can split up those 2 main categories in subcategories, and that of course has to be done in a similar way, again covering exactly 100% of the category you are splitting up. Now, in the next step, Caleb almost gets it right. He slightly changes the wording. He now speaks about things that could exist instead of can exist. But let's give him a pass on that. I don't think that that is going to do much damage.
Possible things that happen not to exist, like unicorns and dodo birds. Possible things that do exist, like you or me.
So what's happening here is that Caleb is jumping right to splitting up his second main category, and that is things that could exist, into 2 subcategories. Things that could exist but don't exist, and things that could exist and do exist. So far that is right, no big problems. Of course, his examples are not airtight like unicorns. You don't know if they don't exist, but other than that, well done. But then the problems really start.
And necessary things, like some people would say the laws of logic or numbers.
Excuse me, necessary things? That's an entire new category that has got nothing to do with the previous categories. It is part of a totally different category system, being things that are necessary and, yes indeed, things that are not necessary. I told you, designing category systems is very simple, yet Christian apologists screw it up over and over again. The consequences of Caleb not thinking this over properly are that his category system now has overlap. You see, things that are necessary in a philosophical way exist by definition. If they're not necessary, they don't exist. So his category 4, necessary things, is already part of his category 3, things that can exist and do exist. So Caleb has now created a flawed category system in which certain concepts, objects or beings now can be put in 2 categories. Therefore his category system is no longer a reliable tool to determine reality. Now let's listen to what else he's got to say.
God, by definition, is the best of all possible beings, so we're not talking about a contingent possible being that just happens to exist or not.
I don't think Caleb does this on purpose, but he's now changing the wording of his explanation of his categories 2 and 3. He now states that his categories 2 and 3 involve contingent things, so those are things of which the existence depends on other things. But that's a new property that he had not assigned to the categories 2 and 3 when he explained his setup. Something that can or could exist, like in his category 2 and 3, does not equal something that is contingent. If we say something can or could exist, we only express that it is possible for something to exist, not that its existence is dependent on something else. I guess Caleb would agree that it's possible for his God to exist. At the same time, he will not agree that the existence of his God depends on the existence of something else. If Caleb wants his categories 2 and 3 to consist of contingent things, then he would need to change his category 1 to non-contingent things. So that would require him to change the setup of his category system, so even more trouble for Caleb's argument.
So God isn't category 2 or 3 by definition. And God isn't impossible. No one has proven he absolutely can't exist. Therefore, God is necessary.
Oh boy, an astounding follow-up of new flaws. The idea that no one ever proved that your God cannot exist does not prove that your God isn't impossible. Caleb, no one ever proved that Dracula, leprechauns and unicorns cannot exist. But that doesn't prove that Dracula, leprechauns and unicorns aren't impossible. The same way, no one ever proved that your God can exist. Nobody has ever proven that. Would that be enough reason for you to think that your God can't exist? I don't think you would accept that line of reasoning when I use it against your belief. And no, your God does not fit the category necessary things. That category is just part of your category 3, things that can exist and do exist. And you just ruled out that yourself. The conclusion is that your category system is totally flawed and cannot be used to prove anything. Caleb, what if I remove your category 4 and replace it with things that once existed but exist no more? Would your category system then lead to the conclusion that your God is dead? Maybe think it over and give it a new try, Caleb, because I like these kind of category systems. It's fascinating to give them thought, but this one can be overthrown far too easily. Better luck next time. Now, for the rest of you, maybe it's time to subscribe to my channel. I give you actual free will to do this, because if you don't subscribe, I won't flood your village, and I won't send a talking snake to you. So the choice this time is really free, without the threat of biblical misery. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching.